Hey guys, welcome back to Lies of P, and today I'll be sharing tips and tricks for beginners on how to survive better in Lies of P, take down bosses, and most importantly, just have an easier time with the game. To show you how all this works, today I'm giving you tips and tricks for beginners to make things a bit easier for you, especially at the start, so you don't get defeated so often. Of course, you can find all the boss guides for Lies of P on my channel, so feel free to check those out, or definitely leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And with that, let's jump right into the tips and tricks for beginners. We've just activated the Stargazer. That's your portal, your bonfire, as you know it from Dark Souls. And with it you can teleport. It's a bit different from Dark Souls, because when we activate a Stargazer like this at the beginning, we can actually level up right there at it if we want to. But that only works until we finally reach Hotel Krat, because after that we can no longer level up at the Stargazer. It might be that this will be patched later, but generally once you've reached Hotel Krat, you can no longer level up here. Instead, you have to teleport back to the hotel each time to upgrade your character's abilities or attributes. At the beginning you can do this normally at the Stargazer, but later on that doesn't work anymore. At that point the level up option is no longer available here, so you first have to go back to Hotel Krat. If the level up menu option no longer appears at the Stargazer, you go back to Hotel Krat, and there you'll find a young lady similar to how it is in Demon Souls. This is your main base, and her name is Sophia, and Sophia will then help you to level up. With her, the level up menu option will then appear, and there you can of course increase your attributes: vitality, strength, maximum load, resolve, technique and advancement. On the right you will always see different values. Of course it all depends on exactly how you want to play the game, whether you're someone who values dexterity or more of a tank who deals a lot of damage but isn't quite as fast. Resolve, for example, increases physical damage but also adds a bit of physical resistance. Strength, on the other hand, increases your equipment load, meaning you can wear more armor and similar items. Vitality is straightforward, it increases your health points, and maximum load slightly reduces weight and increases legion. You can use Ergo for this. You get it from enemies when you kill them, and it's similar to Souls in Dark Souls. So if you want to deal a lot of damage, you need to invest heavily in Resolve. Just look at the attributes here to see which stats are increased as a result. Reset them again depending on what you want to have. Yes, we can also find Ergo from enemies in the form of consumable items. And of course we can check here that if we, at the bottom it says required Ergo for the level and remaining Ergo. If we are still a bit short, we can of course use the Ergos from our inventory to maybe get one more level up. We actually find them in the inventory. If we go in here under consumable items, we simply have the rare Ergos. Those are from boss enemies. You should absolutely not use those. You can do something nice with them later, but the regular Ergos above can be used without worry if you're missing a few points to upgrade a level. That's actually quite useful for reaching the next level. Definitely hold on to rare Ergos. Otherwise, here in the hotel, starting from a certain point in the game, there's Giuseppe, Geppetto, that's his name, our father, and here we can go up to the second floor where we'll find Geppetto waiting for us. By talking to him we have the chance to learn new abilities, which means we can unlock different skills and try out new things in the game that weren't possible before. And with him here at Geppetto's bench we can basically use the P organ to learn your skills or new talents that we need in combat. Here, for example, we can unlock pulse charges, the pulse cells, so that we have more potions, or we can do things like increase the window of time for available groggy, or here a new ability chain dodge, which I personally found very interesting because it lets you dodge faster or even dodge twice. Once we've chosen something, we go in here and we need quartz to assign something there. We assign 2 different things to these individual points, for example, to unlock the chain dodge ability in the first place. So we need at least 2 quartz in order to fill these empty slots. Later on, it will take 3 or even 4 quartz to fill these empty slots, for example, to learn chain dodging here. We can simply go in here and select the empty slots to choose exactly what we would like to have. It's best if you read through that carefully because it explains exactly what each thing does, and various options will be unlocked later on that we can then put in here. I found the dodging ability pretty good because dodging plays a big role in the game and helps us avoid taking too much damage. But of course, at the beginning you can also choose to increase the pulse charges, the pulse cells, so you have more potions. That's completely up to you, of course. Personally, I go for chain dodging here because it's very useful at the start and also pretty good for being able to dodge or to dodge faster or multiple times. By the way, you can also increase pulse charges in other ways. For that, we simply need a pulse cell, which we can then use to increase our pulse charges. In general though, you can basically learn new abilities from Geppetto here, add new things that we didn't know before. That's why you should always stop by here whenever you have enough quartz. You usually get quartz from bigger boss enemies. Yes, there's also the workshop here in the hotel. There we can craft legion arms if we have the necessary materials. You usually get those from boss enemies too, or sometimes you can find them. With legion tools, if we go to Eugenie here, she basically crafts the legion tools automatically, so there isn't a specific menu option for that. But here we can change the handle and upgrade weapons. You need to know that weapons are always divided into 2 parts. So there's the handle and then the blade itself. And now we can combine the handles and blades of the individual weapons with each other. That means, for example, we can take the handle from a baton and put it on a sword to basically create a different weapon or even a different fighting technique. Because when you change the handles of the individual weapons, a slashing weapon can, for example, become a stabbing weapon. In general, we upgrade the blades of the weapons themselves to deal more damage, and for that you need moonstones at the beginning. And you can always use moonstones to upgrade the blade of any weapon you like. That in turn has nothing to do with the handle. You can't upgrade the handle. You can only swap out the handle to change your weapon a bit, and above all to alter how the weapon strikes. So is it a swinging weapon? Is it a stabbing weapon? Is it a slashing weapon? Whatever the case, you can influence that with the handle, which we can change here. But you can also do all of this at the Stargazer, and you can change your weapons there as well. And you really should experiment with combining different things for yourself to see how it all works and what the weapon actually becomes when you put a brand new handle on it. So go ahead and experiment a bit with the weapon. Sometimes you get some pretty funny results. The cool thing is that you can always change it back again. So you can always go back to the handle you had before. So definitely give it a try. Here you can select new weapon assembly and basically, yeah, put the handle from one weapon onto another or change the blade of the weapon and so on. Yeah, and that's how the whole thing works. Here we can upgrade the swords, or rather the blades specifically speaking, and then equip them with new handles to test out what else the weapon can do. Of course, this changes the stats and the weapon gets stronger with an upgrade, but it can also get weaker with a different handle. Alright folks, and that's it for the basic mechanics. Now let's look at what else we need to pay attention to. In Lies of P there are actually a lot of different types of enemies that we can encounter. and I can definitely give you a few tips that will help you deal with these enemies, or make it a bit easier to defeat them. Regarding weapons, it's also the case that there are currently various hidden merchants who sometimes have weapons that, for example, you simply can't find out in the world. Definitely buy those so you have the handle and the blade of the weapon, and you won't have to come back here later just to buy the weapon again, because over time you tend to forget about many of these merchants. You should really try to buy the weapons from the merchants as soon as possible, because you generally can't get them anywhere else, only from the merchants. And yes, that's definitely something you should keep in mind. So, now let's take a look at the enemies. Of course, there are regular enemies, boss enemies, and some that are a bit stronger. In general, you can use your Legion weapon for this. You should also keep testing it out in combat to see how you can play with it. How can I interact with it? Does this Legion weapon suit my fighting style? So the Legion weapon is basically the left robotic arm that prosthesis we have attached. That's why whenever you get new Legion weapons, you should always try them out to see what they can actually do and whether they fit your fighting style. So go ahead and switch them at the Stargazer to simply test out what these Legion weapons can do and whether they might even be better than the one you're currently using. Yes, for me it was actually the case that I really tried out everything. I thought the wire was pretty cool at first, and I have to say the second impulse weapon is definitely stronger, but somehow it just didn't suit my fighting style. That's why I put it aside again, because it just wasn't worth it for me. And you should always check which Legion weapon suits you best and matches your fighting style, so you can get the greatest possible advantage and take down enemies faster. In general, of course, you can also attack enemies from behind. To do this, just walk a bit more slowly, sneak up behind them, and then you can basically hit them in the back, which deals a good amount of damage. But you can also do this even if the enemies have already spotted you. Try to maneuver around the enemy a bit. It's always a bit tricky or very difficult, but if you manage to do it, you really deal the most damage to the enemy, and that can really help you out. In general though, I wouldn't focus on always attacking the enemy from behind, because sometimes you'll go in and then get hit from the side by another enemy. Apart from that, of course, there are also the somewhat stronger enemies. Over there, that's one of those big brutes again. They obviously have a lot of health, but usually disappear once you've taken them down. For example, this one is guarding a chest with an amulet inside, and I recommend always using the environment when dealing with such large enemies. Here we actually have a good situation, because this guy, well, he doesn't fall down here. Somehow he just can't. I've never seen an enemy actually fall down. They did a good job with that, but we can still use the environment here, lure him out, and we always have good cover. After some time, the enemy will return to his original position, and when that happens, we can land a few hits and deal some solid damage. Then we go back again. You see, he goes back to his position, and that way we can kind of trick him a bit, and we don't really have to engage in open combat with him, but instead we can mess with him a little and take him out without him actually being able to do much to us. You see, this works pretty well here. I can just go over and deal my damage, and you can see that he goes down pretty quickly, even though he's actually a really tough opponent. Of course, you can also fight him normally, but if you're having a bit of trouble at the beginning, the environment can really help you a lot to take down the enemies, especially the big ones. And once they're down, they're really gone for good. And then there's usually something good for you after you've taken them out, like here in this chest, for example, the amulet. And you should really try to clear out the big guys to have a clear path, not just run away, so you can at least collect all the loot, like here with the live amulet, which is really important. As a final tip, guys, it's also important to notice that the lamp here has just turned red. That always means there's a butterfly nearby. A red butterfly is always close. Whenever the lamp turns red there, it is flying down there. You can already see it. and you actually have to hurry a bit, because this butterfly disappears after a while. But you absolutely have to catch it and take it down. So you have to attack it, destroy the butterfly, and then a good item will drop from it. Yeah, here we just take it out. Be careful though, it can lure you into situations or places where you can really take a lot of damage, or like here, even fall down. And here we get the moonstone. And as we know, we can use the moonstone to upgrade our weapons. So the butterflies make a certain sound. If the lamp is glowing red, that means one is nearby. Definitely look for it and try to take it out quickly to get the moonstone. Alright friends, and that's pretty much it for our little introduction to Lies of P. You can find all the guides for it on my channel. Of course, feel free to check them out, leave a thumbs up or even subscribe. And if you have any questions, just write them in the comments. Take care, adios, and have lots of fun gaming.